Hey guys, this is Varun from the boardroom. A bunch of you saw our Aurora reel on Instagram and asked us about the game that we used to shoot it. That game is called Fungi. Fungi is published by Pegasus, Spiele, and designed by Brent, Povis. It's a very beautiful game with a lot of amazing art on the cards, and it's an experience to play. All right, it's a two-player game. In this game, you're taking a walk through the forest, picking some mushrooms, and then you're going to cook them in your frying pans and eat them. All right. Each player gets 3 of these guide cards that sort of tell you what's going on in the game, and 1 card with a frequency table of the cards. And over here you have the forest row, which consists of some cards that you can walk through, a deck which you use to refresh the forest row, a pile of walking sticks, and a bunch of night mushroom cards. All right, we'll get to what all of those do in a second. In your forest and your forest deck, you have a bunch of different types of cards. You have some baskets, which increase your carrying capacity. You have some moon cards, which let you access the night mushroom deck. And then you're also going to have some flavor enhancers, like cider and butter. You're going to get additional frying pans that you can use to cook more mushrooms. And you're going to have the mushrooms themselves. All right. There are 10 types of mushrooms in the deck. One of them is poisonous, this guy. You can tell from the skull and crossbones on the card. And the other 9 are edible. Of the 9 edible varieties of mushrooms, you have 1 that's super rare, and there's only 3 instances of that card in the deck. And the other 8 are a little more common with varying frequency. The 8 slightly more common mushrooms are going to have regular day versions as well as night versions in the night deck. There's 1 night mushroom for each of those 8 types, so your night deck has 8 cards. Okay. Now, each of these mushroom cards has a bunch of things going on the card. At the bottom, you have the name of the mushroom. I think that's the Latin scientific name. And then on top here, you have a little number in the middle of the card in a circle. That is the frequency of the card. It tells you how many copies of this are in that deck over there. And then on the left and right of that, you have this little oblong with 2 symbols and numbers. The number underneath the frying pan symbol tells you what the flavor value of this mushroom is. And the number underneath the stick symbol tells you how many walking sticks you can trade this card for. Okay? All that is going to make a little more sense once we get into how the game is played. And we will do that right now. So at the beginning of the game, each player is going to get a hand of 3 cards to start with. All right. This is what I have drawn for myself. And this is what our fake opponent has drawn for today. All right. And we can begin. On your turn, there are 5 options that you have that you can avail. And you're going to do 1 of them on each turn. We see that I've actually drawn a basket in my beginning hand. If you draw one of these baskets, you're going to put that down immediately in your display, and you just continue by starting your turn with 2 hands. All right. What that basket does is increase your carrying capacity by 2. You have a hand limit of 8 in the game. You can hold 8 cards at any time without any baskets, and each basket that you have increases that capacity by 2. All right. So on your turn, you're going to do 1 of 5 things. The first and sort of easy action to talk about is picking up a card from the forest row. All right. So when we begin, we're standing here in the near forest, and the cards in the near forest, the first 2 in the row, are immediately accessible to you, and you can pick up 1 of those. The cards in the deep forest need you to have some walking sticks that you can spend to walk into the deep forest and pick them up. All right. So at the beginning of the game, we have no walking sticks. We're going to choose 1 of these 2 cards to pick, and I'm going to pick this guy up. All right. That goes into my hand, and that is my action for the turn. You only get 1 action each turn. Once you've completed your action, the following steps are going to happen. The first card at the end of the row is going to go into what is called the decay pile. We're going to have that over here right at the end of the forest row. The rest of the cards are all going to slide over as you sort of walk into the forest, and you're going to open up 2 more cards over here so that you continue to have 8 cards in your forest row. Alright? Now, while you're doing this, if the card that you are sending to the DK pile is the 5th card in the DK pile, what you're going to do instead is take those 4 that were already there and move them to a discard. They are now permanently out of the game, and then you're going to put this card back there to restart a new discard pile. Alright? So if there's already 4 in the discard pile, in the DK pile, they're going to move to a discard, and then you can continue that. Once you've done all these things, your turn ends, and the other person can take their turn. Okay? Let's look through the other 4 actions that you can actually do on your turn. One of them is very straightforward. If you wish to do so, you can take a frying pan that is in your hand and place it down in your display. That is an action, and once you've completed that, as you would otherwise, you move the card closest to the end of the forest row into the DK, slide everything over, and refresh to 8 cards over here. Okay, that's action number 2 that you can do. The third thing we're going to talk about that you could possibly do is trade your mushrooms to get these walking sticks, which you can use to access these cards in the deep forest. Now, in order to trade your cards for walking sticks, you need to have at least 2 mushrooms of one type. Alright, you cannot trade single cards. Let me pick something up which will actually let me do that. We're gonna cheat a little and assume that I have this guy in my hand. Alright, so here we have 2 cards of Coprinus comatus. Coprinus comatus is worth only 1 walking stick. We're gonna trade two copies of that card by placing that in the discard pile over here, and each of them is worth 1 walking stick, so I have now acquired 2 walking sticks. Alright, let me keep them over here. Let's put that card back there so we have 8 in the forest row. Now, when you pick up a Moonlight card from the forest row, you get to immediately trade it. This guy goes into the discard, and you pick up the top card from the Night Mushroom deck. Alright, that guy goes into your hand. The Night Mushroom cards look like this. You're going to see that there's a small 2x printed on the side columns between the flavor points and the walking stick points. Yeah? So what that indicates is that for the purposes of trading as well as flavor, the Night Mushroom card is worth 2 of the Day Mushroom cards. It also counts towards the sets that you might make. So this guy can be traded on his own because he represents 2 cards, as it were. Yep. So that's what the Night Mushroom guys do. Alright, let's continue with the other actions that we can do on our turn. If you ever forget, you can always take a look at the guide cards that are very handy. Alright. Let's get to the main thing that earns you points, cooking these mushrooms. In order to cook mushrooms, you need a set of at least 3 identical mushrooms. A night mushroom, of course, counts for 2, so 2 from a night mushroom and 1 from a day mushroom will also do the job for you. Let's find ourselves a set if we could. I'm going to quickly compose something from whatever is available over here. We can see that... Aha! No, that's not an aha. Okay, let's quickly steal these cards from around the table. And if you were to have a set of 3 cards like this in your hand, that makes a set that you can cook. So you're going to cook them by placing them on one of your empty frying pans in this manner. Okay? And once you've played them onto the frying pan, that dish is already cooked. You cannot add more cards to it anymore. Alright? And at the end of the game, this guy is going to be worth 3 flavor points to you because each one of the cards that you played was worth 1 flavor point. Now, it's possible that you can play a larger set of cards. If you had 4 of the same type or 5 of the same type, you can put them down, and then that dish will be worth more points. Let's take a look at the flavor enhancers that we had talked about earlier. This guy over here is cider. The other one that you're going to find available is butter. There we go. We have a butter here. Alright. So if you look at these guys, they tell you how much flavor they actually add to your dish. Alright. Butter adds 3 flavor points and cider adds 5 flavor points. However, you can only use these flavor enhancers if you have a minimum number of 4 mushrooms in your dish, alright? So these 3 mushrooms are not going to cut it. You cannot add the butter or the cider there. If you had a 4th mushroom in your set, you can use the butter to enhance its flavor by 3 points. If you had a 5th mushroom in the set, you can use the cider to enhance its flavor by 5 points. If you want to use both the mushroom and the butter, both the cider and the butter, you're going to have 5 and 4, 9 cards. So that's a lot of mushrooms that you need to put together to actually use both of these at the same time. Alright? But it is possible, the rules do allow for that. So that covers your cooking mushrooms action. Alright? And the 5th option that you have for an action you can take on your turn is to actually take all of the cards in the DK pile and add them to your hand. Of course, you can do this only if your hand limit actually allows you to do that. Remember that your hand limit natively is 8, and each basket that you've put down in your display increases that by 2. Alright? So let's say as the DK pile grows, it becomes more and more useful to be able to get it, since that lets you get more cards on a turn than you would by just picking up from the forest row. Alright? This action allows you to take all of the cards in the DK pile and add it to your hand if your hand limit allows you to do that. Alright? So once you do that, from the end of your turn, as you add cards over there, that DK pile will continue growing again. The maximum size of the DK pile is 4. Once the DK pile hits 4 cards, before you add a 5th card to that pile, you're going to take those 4 cards and push them into the discard. They're permanently out of the game, and then you can start a new DK pile over there. Alright? Those are the 5 actions that you're choosing from on your turn. And after you complete one of those 5 actions, you're going to do what's on this little after your turn guide card. You're going to move 1 card from the row into the DK pile. You're going to push the row down, and you're going to add cards to the back end of the row such there are 8 cards in the row again. Alright? Now let's go over what happens when you pick up some of these special cards from the row. If you pick up a basket from the row, you're going to immediately place it in your display. That's not an action. You just take the basket, that is your action, and you put it in your display immediately, automatically, and that increases your hand size by 2. That's what a basket does. If you pick up a moonlight card, you immediately put that in the discard pile and draw the top card from the night mushroom deck. Alright? If you pick up any of the flavor enhancers or frying pans, those just go into your hand and wait until you play them. If you pick up any of the regular edible mushrooms, they go into your hand and you just wait for them. However, if you pick up the poisonous mushroom, that is going to do some funny things to you, alright? So the mushroom's poisonous, and what happens to you is that you are now forced to curtail your hand limit to 4 cards. So the native hand limit in the game is 8. Once you pick up a poisonous mushroom, for the duration of your turn until the end of your next turn, you're going to only be able to hold 4 cards in your hand. Your baskets, however, still work, so you will be able to hold 4 plus 2 for each basket that you have in your display. Now, in order to get to that limit, you're going to be forced to discard some of the cards in your hand if you have more than the limit. At this point, it would be useful to point out that there is no way in the game for you to discard cards that you don't want, which are in your hand. Sometimes the poison mushroom can be useful because it lets you do this so you can free up space for cards that you want to pick up. This is a set collection game. You're trying to make sets of the same type of mushrooms so that you can cook them for flavor, and this card is a powerful way to prune your hand to get the kind of cards that you do actually want into your hand. Alright, so that's how the poisonous mushroom works. We've covered how all of the cards are going to work. The game's going to keep going back and forth in this way. You're going to take an action, you're going to do the after turn push, the other player will take an action, they're going to do the after turn push, and you'll keep going this way until the entire forest row and deck are empty. Alright, once that happens, the game is ended, and you're going to each calculate the flavor points of all of the dishes you've cooked. That's very simple to do. Each dish is going to have a flavor value equal to the sum of all the frying pan points on each card in that dish. So you're going to add up all of those for each dish, and then you're going to add up all of your dish's flavor points, and that is your score at the end of the game. The person who's consumed more flavor wins the game. That is fungi for you. I hope you guys enjoy trying the game out as much as we did. It's beautiful, and if you like mushrooms, this is the game for you.